quarterbacks for international money so they'd land Sasaki. I really thought that's where he was going to go, even though you were right all along.
Hey, here we go. Man, it's official. The Jets have just found their next head coach. It is Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is the next head coach of the New York Jets. Wow. Crazy, man. This is crazy. Yes, of course, everyone saw this coming. Yes, of course, Aaron Glenn was the favorite to land this job. But just to see it become official like this is, just as a Jet fan, whenever you have like a shift like this, it just fires me up personally. Now, look, Aaron Glenn is someone who, again, a lot of people have based off the reports, everything that we've seen so far about Aaron Glenn, linking him to the Jets. We could talk about the connections to Tannenbaum, the organization, him knowing the media, him knowing the fan base, him having that Parcells connection, him being that old school style of coach. There's a lot of attractive qualities about Aaron Glenn as a head coaching option for the New York Jets. He's not a perfect option. There's pros and cons to every single head coaching candidate. We're going to dive into it. But crazy, right? I think you listen to how people talk about Aaron Glenn, right? Whether it's Dan Campbell, whether it's Lions players, whether it's Ben Johnson, right? You listen to the word around the NFL. Everyone freaking loves him. Everyone loves him. He's been around numerous great coaches. Again, Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, but Sean Payton, Bill Parcells, hard-nosed, old-school, physical coach. And that, to me, is exactly what the Jets need. When the cycle first kicked off, man, I can't even wrap my head around it, even though it was so obvious from the beginning. But when the cycle first kicked off, my number one area that I wanted the Jets to address wasn't getting an offensive mind, wasn't getting a defensive guy, special teams, older head. My number one thing, get the candidate who you feel as though is going to change the culture. The Jets have no culture. The Jets have no accountability. Anything could happen, and there's no repercussions. There's no discipline. There's no standard at all. And it needs to change. It needs to change. And again, you listen to how people talk about Aaron Glenn. You listen to him in press conferences. You listen to him in interviews. Those are qualities that are continuously talked about with AG. I mean, you listen to some of these quotes, right? Aaron Glenn has the it factor. Players love playing for Glenn. Players play hard for AG. They're trying to rush back from injury so they can be a part of the success, be a part of the defensive unit. Who was it? Dan Campbell the other day that said, he's a true leader of men. That whole CEO style, we're coming in, we're changing everything. We're changing the tune, we're changing the attitude, we're turning the tables on the rest of the NFL. We're turning the tables on how people view us, right? We are changing how things are done here. And that starts immediately. It starts immediately. And actually, and look, there's a lot of people that are against this hire. Because again, many people foresaw this coming, and that is 100% understandable and justified, right? It's why I love football, right? No, only time will tell how this thing is going to play out, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So whether you like the hire or you don't like the hire, please let me know, because I'm excited to dive into the comments and really, see where everyone is standing with this, with this change in leadership here. But I got to be honest, for me, the two hires that really remind me of this one, number one, I hate to be cliche here, but Dan Campbell in Detroit, right? The Detroit Lions. It was losing. It was dysfunction. You had players coming out and talking crap about Matt Patricia. Bob Quinn was not the answer at general manager. They needed a change. And a lot of people kind of looked at that job in that specific cycle. It was the same one that Robert Saleh was hired in. And they were like, the Lions are, it's a good job, but it's not a great job. They're interviewing all these, different candidates, and they shock everyone. They go with Dan Campbell. Again, what was the media reaction to that? It was not good at all. But the reasoning, the root of that hire was, we need someone to come in and flip the script, change the attitude with this franchise, and all of a sudden turn the Lions into a organization or a team where players are proud to be a part of them, right? They want to wear the blue and silver. They want to go play for Detroit. They want to play for these fans. They want to play for this coaching staff. And that is exactly what happened. Dan Campbell was an offensive guy. He had interim head coaching experience. He was around the offensive guru, Sean Payton. Was Dan Campbell hired to run this offense? Was he hired because they looked at him as an offensive mastermind? No. He was hired because he is a culture changer and was considered a leader of men. Someone who players, who coaches rally behind. Someone who can get in front, the general of the team. Now, the other hire that this reminds me of here was a couple of years ago, right? I want to say after 2017, going into 2018, there was a team in the AFC consistently mediocre, right? They needed a new voice. They needed someone to come in and change the culture, again, turn the tables on the rest of the league. And the candidate that they went with was criticized constantly, right? No one really liked that. Some people, of course, like the hire, but the mass reaction was, what is this team doing? Because they decided to go with a first-year defensive-minded coach who just put up the 32nd ranked defense on a 4-win team. This is the candidate that is supposed to put our young quarterback, who's on a rookie deal, who we took up at the top of the draft, in a position to have success. This is the guy who we're supposed to get behind. Well, it worked out. It was Mike Vrabel, right? Think back, Mike Vrabel, Houston Texans DC, getting hired with the Tennessee Titans, going from malarkey to Vrabel, again, criticized heavily. Why was Vrabel hired in Tennessee? It wasn't because of his ability to develop a quarterback. It wasn't his ability to call a defense. Yeah, of course, he developed some players, Clowney, Merciless, but that hire was made because Mike Vrabel was a leader of men. Mike Vrabel was going to come in and change that culture, and that's exactly what happened. Now, you can argue the Titans teams had a lot of talent, but you could also argue the Jets team has a lot of talent. We have some massive holes that we got to fill. DT, maybe another edge rusher. What's going to happen with the safety position? I think we need 2 new starters there, right tackle, tight end, wide receiver depth, depending on what happens with Devontae Adams, and we'll see if Corley can bounce back. Overall offensive line depth would be nice. Obviously, the whole Aaron Rodgers situation as well. But the Dan Campbell, the Mike Vrabel, this is the type of hire that I feel like I don't think the Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn based off of what we've seen on the defense side of the football. That's a part of it. And this is just my assumption here. That's a part of it. That's kind of like the icing on top, right? That the defense is going to get better. We're going to have more players buy into the defensive scheme and strategy here. But to me, like the real force behind this hire, Aaron Glenn's culture building aspects. So I can't even, again, this was expected. Glenn was the Vegas freaking favorite to land this job, but here I am, my head's spinning. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets. Let's freaking go, man.